Hey everybody, and welcome back to another horror film lovers reviews. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got my co-host,
John Ward.
John Ward is here. And we're going to be talking about a little movie called Army of Darkness, or
Army
as
O
I like to
Darkness.
call it, Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness, because that's what pops up, you know, in the movie. I mean,
Yes,
that's
it
what I
does.
saw. Yeah, it's the title of the movie and the thing. Which
Yeah.
I guess in another cut, maybe it's called just Army of Darkness or something, but I don't know. Anyway, so yes, so Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness, not the Army of Darkness, but Army
Just
of Darkness,
Army of Darkness.
which
Yeah.
was a little weird because usually when you hear verse, it's not verse Army of Darkness, it's like versus the Army of Darkness, but
I remember when my friends and I went to go see it in the theater when it first came out, and the verse comes up, and one of my friends looks at me and goes, "Did that just say verse? That
yeah.
is awesome!" And we were so excited that it said Bruce Campbell verse Army of Darkness. We were so excited because of that. It was such a
Yeah,
big deal.
that hypes it up, man. I get it.
Yeah, because it's such a very Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, that whole camp
Tongue in
type of
cheek,
thing.
yeah, tongue in cheek kind of
Yeah.
thing. And for a while this was not my least favorite. I liked it a lot. I actually liked it a lot more than Evil Dead 2, which a lot of people love. That's like everybody's favorite a lot of times. But I know. See, I was weird. I don't know.
Have you
I
seen High Fidelity? My God, they rave about it in High Fidelity.
Oh, Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2?
Evil Dead 2,
No.
calling
I've
it like
seen
the
I
greatest movie
saw
ever
High
made.
Fidelity years ago, and honestly, I wasn't I don't
Okay,
know.
I got
Maybe
I
I
got to do this. I got to do this
Yeah.
again. What the hell's wrong?
Yeah.
What is
What is wrong with you? I don't know. It wasn't,
I feel that is such a great movie. That was with, when
John
Cusack was
Cusack and Jack Black,
at his
right?
height. Yeah, it's right before Jack Black was really Jack Black, and he was that,
Mm-hmm.
we at least I liked him then. I thought he just became annoying later. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was like Cusack at his height.
I
That,
know, but I didn't know. Just not for me. I
okay.
liked him in Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer and all that stuff, but like and Say Anything because I'm a Cameron Crowe fanatic, you know me, so I like
Yeah, I know you're a
I'm a
huge
Crow head.
Elizabeth
I'm a Crow
Town
head. No,
fan.
well,
You love
no, Elizabeth.
Aloha. You know.
You're now just making fun of Cameron Crowe. I like
I
Almost Famous. I like Jerry Maguire. I like Vanilla Sky. You know,
Well, of
I
course,
like
his two
Singles
best movies are Tom Cruise
or
movies.
Singles. Things like that. I enjoy his stuff. But anyway, that's not Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi did this. And
That he's a different director.
yes, he's a different director, and we're pretty much talking about him right now. Trying to, because I'm trying to stay on target.
Stay on
Um,
target.
exactly. But so I really enjoyed this movie again. Like I hadn't seen it in forever, and it was something that I just forgot a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember the crazy like skeleton characters and things, but I didn't remember a lot of it. And I think also back when when I was younger, I didn't like medieval times stuff, King Arthur and other things like that. I just wasn't that wasn't my foray. I like it now a lot more, but when I was young, I didn't find that interesting. That just, except for Monty
You
Python and the Holy Grail. Now
you crack me up with your stuff that you don't like.
that was back then. I
I won't
mean,
watch this movie because it's one location. I won't watch this movie because it takes place during the Civil War. I won't watch this. It's like I can watch
yeah, the
any
Civil
movie
War.
out there.
Yeah, I didn't
You
really like
know,
westerns either. I didn't
yeah, westerns. I mean, some of the greatest movies ever
zombie
made are
movies.
westerns. At least
Have
you're
they
getting
made
a
a
little bit more in the zombie movies.
have they made a silent zombie movie? Just silent.
I don't think so.
That would be.
But people want to hear the zombie
Silent
noises.
Night of the Dead. There you go. There's a title
You,
and there's a movie right there.
no, no,
Why
I
not?
don't want to. No.
You don't want to see a silent? you know?
No, I could see a within the movie there is footage that's silent that like somebody took, like back in, silent movie footage of a zombie attack or something, and it's being played and people are watching it. That I could see, but no, I would not want to watch a whole movie like that. No,
Why not?
because I think it would be boring.
I don't know. Why? Because you have to hear them go.
You need the sounds and the shuffling and stuff. There's certain things that zombies do that you expect, and if you don't hear it, then why would you?
All right. Anyway, I just
Yeah.
was thinking because that's two of my genres. I'm not a huge fan of silent films. A lot. I will watch them, but they're not my,
Oh God, there's another one.
favorite. There's another one. Yeah. There you go. What do you have? You said you had some movies to share.
Yes, I have three here. So this is what I watched. I thought I already owned it, but maybe not or something, or I just can't find it. So luckily, I have the Scream Factory Blu-ray, which I Blu-ray produced by Cliff McMillan, and did not realize that it has disc one is the theatrical cut, which is R rated. Disc two is the director's cut, not rated. And disc three is the international cut, not rated. But when you go into this, so we got the disc one theatrical cut, disc two director's cut. Oh, and disc three, it doesn't say this on there. So it's the international cut television cut.
Oh,
So I don't know if they're two different movies or if it's the international cut that played on television.
you should have checked it out and seen. Just looked at it and
But
seen. Anyway.
um yeah, I didn't think about it. So so I've seen the theatrical version many times, and I've seen a couple times the director's cut, which has that alternate ending on it, including very different scenes of like the windmill and other stuff. Did you have a chance to see the special features?
There are the only special feature on this one, the Screwhead edition, is a like creating the Deadites documentary, which is pretty interesting. I watched a little bit of it,
Okay.
but it was about it's about like K and B effects and how they did all the Deadites and the character creature stuff. Is that not on there?
It's probably included in, but this has do they list more? Um okay, so yeah, so it does list on this. So what I took the screenshot and sent it to you. So
Hmm.
there's a 96, it's funny, it's longer than a movie, a 96-minute documentary on the film where they talk about a little bit of the history of Evil Dead, and then it gets into the making of Army of Darkness, all the way up to basically it being released like 100 times.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that was really good because Bruce Campbell seems to be very honest in this interview.
Hmm.
And then there is the alternate ending, and then there's the alternate beginning, which would have been on the director's cut. And there is deleted scenes where it has the entire alternate windmill scene. So, which leads up to him walking into the mirror and all the pieces falling.
Yeah.
So and it also explains because I was watching this, and as I do with, like, I think I mentioned in the other video, oh, I'm not really looking forward to watching this because I've seen it so many times. But it seems with us doing this, as I look at it more as
Like a
that,
technical.
yeah, and so with this, I'm like, okay, so, and maybe this is in the director's cut, but he, so at the very beginning of the film, Bruce loses his um the shotgun. It falls on the ground. You see some of the guys walk on it. And then the wizard takes the chainsaw after everything, and Bruce gets out of the pit, and we see the Deadite up there, and we hear the gun blast. He then has the shotgun. Where did he get the shotgun?
That's my question. Like, where did that come from?
So I'm wondering if there's an alternate, if one of these other cut versions show that, because in the deleted scenes, the alternate version of the windmill, which doesn't have like the Evil Dead force hitting up against the door, it's just he just sees the windmill and walks up to it and goes inside, and it's like a 5 minute segment of just it creaking, and he's walking around the windmill, and it's just kind of creepy, and it's creaking, and it's almost like it's kind of like alive in a way.
Hmm.
And he goes outside and he finds his horse, because before that he's being chased through the woods from the Evil Dead force,
And
and
he
the
loses the
tree,
horse.
yeah,
Yeah.
he knocks it off of the horse, runs away. In the theatrical version, after the windmill, he's back on the horse.
Hmm.
So how did he find the horse?
Well,
Well,
I
in
mean,
this, the horse is, he's just hanging out.
you're
So
right.
he's just outside, and Bruce kind of stumbles upon the horse because he hears a noise.
Right. And it
And,
makes
and
that
he's
makes
like,
sense, but it didn't we didn't need it. Like I get cutting it for time or whatever issues that they had, which it was an hour and 20 minutes. I could have used 10 more minutes, which could have had these little.
which is the director's cut. So
Oh, that's an hour and a half.
yeah. So there's 10 minutes out of back in, where at least a good 5 minutes of that is the windmill. And so because when he's at the graveyard and all the tombstones are popping up, and everything is shaking, and there's the wind and all that stuff, the horse is just there not doing anything. The horse is just kind of hanging out. So it's like, okay, so the horse freaks out when it's the Evil Dead force, but it doesn't freak out when there's earthquakes and storms and tombstones being launched in the air.
Right.
It just kind of hangs out doing its thing, until Bruce can get back on it. There's also footage at the beginning where King Arthur, uh,
Lord Arthur.
Lord Arthur, sorry, Lord Arthur, then, um, Arthur, that when he's kind of berating Ash,
Hmm.
there's a longer scene where Ash decks him, and he falls to the ground, and he grabs his sword, and there's pictures of this. Um, and he actually has Arthur on the ground, and his sword is right at his neck, and he spares him, and Arthur gets up. And that's when when Arthur's like, "Oh, take him away," and that's when Ash is like, "You scumbag, you lowlife," and it cuts back
Yeah.
to that, which I'm glad they did cut, because I think that you need Ash to do that later.
Right.
We
There
don't need
needs
for
to
him.
be like where he is taking charge of this, and he's got to show Lord Arthur he's the one, he's the boss. And that
Yeah,
should happen later. In the beginning, it should be that he is the new guy, and even though he's showing to everybody that he should be spared from the Deadites pit, did you get a Return of the Jedi vibe from this at all? Like, when I was
mm-mm.
watching it, all I could think of was the pit, where the Sarlacc
Oh, the
pit,
pit itself.
the Sarlacc pit.
No, because they've always had those type of pits in like Sword and Sandal
See,
movies. There
maybe
was
that's it.
always.
Maybe that was a sword and sandal thing that Return of the Jedi, you know, like like
Well,
a
that's
homage.
directly in Jedi. That's taken directly from Flash Gordon.
Right.
So Flash Gordon always fell into pits. Ming always hit the button, and then the floor would open up, and Flash
Okay.
and Dale
Okay.
would fall into the
All
pit with the
right.
guy in
Well,
the costume. But it's a pretty standard thing. I'm looking at the back of the box here, and there are four versions of this. So there's the theatrical version, which is 81 minutes, the director's cut, which is 96 minutes, international cut is 88 minutes, and the television cut is 90 minutes. So
uh-huh.
it's three discs, but it's Yeah, so on the back of here, actually, it does mention if I look a little closer in the notes, it does say television version.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing kind of kicks ass. It's got like everything you want. So, but I also have, because I'm awesome, and you may be jealous of this,
Oh goodness.
because I know that you're a 4K guy.
Oh, you got a 4K version.
4K
Nice.
Steelbook.
So you got that when you were at Cliffs, right?
Yeah, this one too. So,
Mm.
um, the
Oh, okay. You got both copies. All right.
so and yeah, so this is got a bunch of stuff. So it's got disc one is the 4K Ultra HD theatrical cut. Disc two is the Blu-ray theatrical cut. I don't know what this is. Oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, they're protecting it. Okay. So there's four discs. So there's the director's cut Blu-ray, and then you got the Blu-ray of the other stuff too. So I see they put this upside down, I guess, to protect it because it's ooh, I don't like that they did it this way. They just kind of stuck it in like this. But now my fingerprints are all over it. I don't like how they did this at all. So now it doesn't even go back in the thing right. But yeah, so this is this. And then I forgot this to mention this for from last week, but also 4K Evil Dead remake.
Nice.
So I
Is-
have and I'll have to look closer at Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. But maybe I got those in 4K also. So I know I have those on DVD. They're right above me up there in my Sam Raimi collection.
mm,
But yeah. So there's the um so there's that deleted footage which I think is good. There's also where Ash says to Arthur, we need to go get I don't know Eric the Red or whatever. I forget what his name is, but I think it's like Eric the Red or something.
yeah.
And we need to go get his help. There is an entire scene missing of him going for help, and
Who
he
went
gets
for help?
captured. Henry, Henry is it? Henry the Red,
But
and
who went to get him?
Ash in the deleted scene.
But okay, because we don't see that. We only see them there, and
No,
then
and
we
and
see Henry the Red come later. His crew
yeah,
comes
which
later.
the actor in the documentary mentions. It's really weird because why do Henry's men just show up out of nowhere?
Right, because I don't was there even a line in the theatrical where they said we should ask for Henry's help
Yeah,
I
Ash
don't
does.
remember that. I don't remember that.
Yeah, Ash says that we need as many people because when they realize that Ash screwed up because he didn't do
Right.
the three words correctly, Arthur says, "Well, look, most of everybody left. They ran. How are we supposed to fight the Deadites?" And he goes, "Well, we're going to have to go ask Henry." And there
Okay.
is a scene of him kind of like coming over like a like hill. Henry's men capture him. They're going to kill Ash. Henry stops him, saying, "This is the guy who saved my life." And Ash explains to him what's happening. Henry's like, "Well, why should I help Arthur?"
Hmm.
And Ash is like, "Well, once the Deadites take out Arthur, they're going to come for you."
Yeah,
And he kind of gives him that look of, ah, I
that's good.
see.
That's a good reason. And like the
Yeah.
more help, the better, because if they can't take it and they die, then that other group of people aren't going to be able to take them by themselves. So if the more the bigger the group and everything. What I did like is the fact that Bruce as Ash obviously could bring some futuristic stuff to the past that they wouldn't think of, like the exploding arrows and the catapults with the kind of everything kind of exploding and everything, which I don't think they would have done without him, you know?
No, because yeah, he's got the chemistry book.
Yeah.
And so he looks up how to make gunpowder.
Hmm. So he
So
does all those things that, like, yeah. Um, and also I really like that they had the blacksmith guy was Timothy Patrick Quill, who's been in a lot of these. Sam Raimi stuff before, and I was like, when I saw him again, I was like, ah, he's
He
got that
is
look. He's got a look to him.
well, yeah, and this is from the documentary because they interview him. He was childhood friends with Sam Raimi. He's in a bunch of
Yeah,
his
old
like
shorts.
yeah, the short films that he did, the student films, and then Quill moved out to out to Hollywood, and Sam's
Hmm.
like, "Well, we need you in Army of Darkness," which then the actor said that that's the movie that got him his SAG card. So, and
Yeah,
he was only expecting like a tiny role, and Sam's like, "No, you're going to play the blacksmith."
yeah. He
So,
unfortunately has passed, and that sucks because I really liked
oh,
him and I wanted to work with him at some point because I like his look. He has this like really kind of like he could be scary, but he always kind of plays like nicer guys, like like good guys, and stuff. But he's got that look of like I don't want to fuck with them, so I want him on my team, kind of thing.
right, yeah.
And so I always liked him. I don't was Scott Spiegel in this? Yeah, so Scott Spiegel, Ted Raimi is in it. He plays that little goofy guy
Ted
at the end.
Raimi is in the film 4 times,
Four times.
and yeah, he plays different
He does
characters
like
every
fake
single time.
Shemp or something,
Yeah, he's
and
all
stuff.
yeah, he was really supposed to play the one character who was scared and wanted to leave, and then we get a close up of him saying, "I'll fight with you," and Sam Raimi said, that makes no sense because you were just scared like 30 seconds ago, and now you're willing to fight by his side, so go to makeup and wardrobe and you know be a different character." So they ended up having him play the like 4 different characters, and he does a lot of the voices for the skeletons.
Nice.
So he's one of the main, yeah, guys for that.
Cool.
So it's yeah, and something that they don't mention in this, but I've seen in other things is um the person that helped them find locations was Wes Craven.
Nice.
That he was going to be doing Shocker 2, and Sam was going to be doing Evil Dead 3. So they like hunted locations together.
Why didn't
So
Shocker 2 happen? I wonder. Money?
probably. I don't like Shocker. I rewatched it not long ago and I thought, God, this is actually a bad
I
movie.
watched it with my brother and we turned it off after about 15, 20 minutes because we were just like, this is too over the top to like be
Yeah.
fun. Like if Sam Raimi did it and it be over the top, he can make it work. I don't think Wes Craven's an over the top kind of guy. And I
No,
just don't
even
like it.
his Freddy is pretty, you
Not
know,
over the top,
no,
like
no.
it didn't get over the top to like other directors like um the director of part 3 or 4, like 4 and 5 were really over the top, and six, those were the
Oh,
really
definitely sex.
crazy.
Yeah.
Six was the most over the top. I think that was the one that almost killed Freddy, like, because it said Freddy's dead, you know, like they were just like, this is whatever. We're just letting it all go. But anyway, the yeah, it became more like a cartoon, but like Wes Craven's not known for that. Like even if you look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that's the normal Freddy, going back to his his stuff. So he's really good at creating pretty, I don't know, more standard villains, more uh scary villains.
Yeah, I guess they're more sinister than being,
Over
than being over the top.
yeah.
And that's what I always thought Horace Pinker was, even though, I love that actor because, he went on then to be on X-Files. But yeah, it's let's see some other stuff so I can get this out of the way. The alternate beginning. So in the theatrical one, it's Bruce doing the narration. My name is Ash. I'm a slave. In the alternate one, which I don't know if it's on the theatrical cut, it's very Evil Dead. Like Ash is in dark and his eyes are lit. And he's like, I've met pure evil. I know what pure evil is. And it's all very dark and gloomy and horror like. And then he shows scenes, from really part two. Um, and so I could see why, if they were going for a sense of humor with part three, of why that would be cut, because it doesn't match at all.
Right.
So
Um,
it's just,
we have an alternate ending on this one, but not an alternate beginning. So I need to get the 4K because I actually have a 4K. You don't. Like you have it because you're gonna, eventually get a 4K, and so you'll eventually have it.
because I have friends in high places.
I
So-
know, right? Like if I were friends with Cliff, yeah, I'd be going for all the 4Ks. But you only went for probably a couple 4Ks just because you have no reason, like probably ones that already have Blu-rays with them, or whatever, which makes sense. But yeah, I'm actually trying to get my Scream Factory 4Ks up. Like I got a couple 4Ks from Scream Factory. I'm trying to get as many as I can because there's not because since 4K is still so new, they're not like not every obviously not every Blu-ray has been updated. And I don't even know if every Blu-ray from Scream Factory will be updated to 4K. I don't. That would have been a question I would have asked Cliff if that's something like if that's something or if they're I bet my theory is that they want to make sure a people will buy it. I think that's what he said to you was that he wants to make sure that there's actual, you know, people that are interested in a 4K version of that, you know.
yeah, I mean, there's I think it's kind of hard. I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to say. I don't know. I guess I didn't ask that question because like you said, I don't have a Blu-ray player yet.
4K player,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, a 4K player yet. And yeah, so I
You're not really thinking about 4K
grabbed.
questions, You're
Yeah,
only
I mean,
asking,
th
stuff that
there are
you
certain things like I do have, and it's the first one. I have the Slumber Party Massacre as a steel book in 4K. And to me, that's a film that doesn't need to be in 4K. Like, why? Well,
then why did you get it in 4K?
because it's in 4K. I got it because it's the best version of the movie, but I I prefer the collection that has one through three and the documentaries and all that type of stuff. There are just I know I think things get too clear with stuff. I mean, I've brought this up with Night of the Living Dead when Criterion did their remaster of it, and when the zombie's hand is in the door and they close it and they take the knife and cut the hand, you could see the section where they put the two pieces together to make the hand. So there's that line from the mold that you could see where you couldn't see it if you bought like a shitty version from a gas station or something. And which is to me the way you should watch a Night of the Living Dead. And
Mm.
almost the Evil Dead, the original, needs to be watched that way too. It needs to, if it's being called like like a grueling piece of grindhouse nightmare or something like that, where it's I know you almost need to see it like a documentary where it's kind of rough, where it doesn't look really nice. Because I don't know, to me, But with that being said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when they remastered it for Blu-ray, I never liked the movie. I thought this. I want to take a shower. This film just looks gross. It just looks bad. And then I saw that remastered Blu-ray, and now I love the movie. So
I
I
mean,
don't.
okay, so to go back to you going, oh my God, I can't believe you hated. I mean, originally when I first saw Texas Chainsaw, I hated it, and not like I just watched like the first, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and I just couldn't get into it as a kid, like because it doesn't start out like horror movies normally do, or whatever. It kind of is a little slow in the beginning, but as an adult, when I watched it, I said, "Oh my God, this is like A, beautifully shot. B, this is great character development, even though I fucking hated that guy in the wheelchair. I just hate
Oh
him.
no, nobody likes him. I mean, even the actor admits that.
Right.
That's Franklin is the
Franklin, yeah.
character's name. Yeah,
And
that's done on
nobody liked
purpose.
him. He was so obnoxious, but like he did such a great job being that obnoxious wheelchair guy that later they had to do that in Friday the 13th part. I want to say it was part three or whatever, where the guy was in the
Part two has the wheelchair.
part two is the wheelchair,
Yeah.
and then part three has the annoying big guy or whatever, which was he's a
Yeah,
famous
yeah, Shelley, and he goes
Shelley
around doing all the stupid jokes with like
jokes and with the
the
hockey
knives.
mask, and he gives the
Yeah,
hockey mask to fucking Jason, you know.
yeah. So without that character, Jason wouldn't have his hockey mask. But
Mm,
speaking of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Bill Moseley is in Army of Darkness. Did you
yes,
know
he
that?
is. He is the
He
Deadeye
plays.
captain.
Yep, and they interview him too. So two actors in Army of Darkness called Raimi's people and said, if you ever make a part three, I want in on it. Bill Moseley was one. He sent a letter to Sam Raimi saying, hey, I played Chop Top in Texas 2, love to be part of it. And Sam remembered it. They communicated back and forth. And so he got to play that role. And then the other one is Bridget Fonda, is that she was a huge Evil Dead fan and had her people, her agent called Sam and said, hey, I heard something might be happening. I got one of my
Well,
people here who want to be involved in it. And I think it was Sam or Bruce. I forget which one he said.
I'm
Bruce
trying
Campbell
to look
said,
it up. So from what I remember reading somewhere, Sam Raimi used to live in a like a bungalow, is what it was called in LA with Rob Tappert, and a bunch of other people, including I think Bridget Fonda was one of them. And the only reason uh I know this is because Josh Becker talks about it. Trying to find the see if it's on the on Sam Raimi's IMDb trivia. Um, yep. Okay. During the mid 1980s, Raimi used to live. Okay, so it wasn't. I thought it was Bridget Fonda. It was not. But during the mid 80s, Raimi used to live in an apartment with actor Bruce Campbell, writer director Scott Spiegel, writer director Joel Cohen, writer producer Ethan Cohen, and actresses Holly Hunter, Frances McDormand, and Kathy Bates. Could you imagine living? And there was a joke where Josh used to go there and stay there whenever he could, like just to have basically, but he wouldn't pay rent. Everybody else paid rent. Said if he had paid rent, maybe he would have been famous like everybody else. That's like the joke, but that right there is an Oscar-winning group of amazing people, you know? Like, I would have loved, God, I would have loved just to be a fly on the wall there and see like what was it like, living
yeah,
in a house like that.
oh yeah, yeah. And it's yeah, that would have been an interesting party, to be at,
I don't know if it would be,
whenever they
yeah, I don't know if party, but I would just like to like see what they're like when they're just like hanging out, just chatting over dinner, you know? Like what are they, what do big time Hollywood filmmakers, probably Three Stooges would pop up a lot, you
well,
know?
but at that time they weren't.
Right. At the time in the mid 80s, yes, they were yeah, he had both of them had both of those groups had just started basically. So Sam Raimi, Holly Hunter, I'm surprised about. I don't know how that. I guess maybe she was friends with the Coen brothers and Frances McDormand. I don't know, but like all of them all hanging out together. Um, that
Well,
just
remember, she's in Raising Arizona.
That's true. So maybe that was around Raising Arizona time too. So maybe they were just, yeah. And Sam Raimi, wasn't he in that too, or something? I don't know. I know he was in other ones.
I know Hudsucker
Sucker,
Proxy is
Proxy.
the one that like Bruce Campbell's in, and yeah, and Sam Raimi had stuff to do in that one
Yeah,
too.
they're all like best friends and stuff. And I'm kind of
Yeah.
jealous of that because like, you know, I bet they didn't think like because Joel Cohen, and we'll get into this later when we talk about the original Evil Dead, but Joel Cohen edited Evil Dead, and and then said, "Oh, my brother and I are working on a project, called Blood Simple," you know, and they ended up making Blood Simple, and Evil Dead got finished, and all of these movies. I mean, just to me, it's just so amazing, like the just to look back at that, like who would have expected? Like Sam Raimi is famous, for like Spider-Man and Evil Dead movies and whatnot. And the Coen brothers have done a lot of other stuff, but they're both like, I think they're on par of the same, and they all like great shots, and fun, quirky characters. You know what I mean? Like I can see them all get along.
But it's kind of like you think back and to the Rat Pack or something. Can you imagine being around Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. and all of these people that were kind of sub Rat Pack people also,
Well,
and then you look at the famous photo, and
right.
there's probably more, but there's the famous photo of it's like Scorsese, Coppola, Lucas, Spielberg, De
Yeah.
Palma, and they're all eating dinner together, and it's like, what would that have been like to just
Yeah.
and none of these guys were in like competition. They all helped each other,
At
and
these horror conventions and stuff, you see these big time actors will go to dinner together, and stuff, and hang out and everything. And I'm so jealous because I'm not invited to that dinner, like, and you see like Kate Hodder will probably having dinner with like Robert England, and so to go back, yeah, that's kind of like that. Like there are these things. Nowadays we have what Adam Green, Joe Lynch, what's the I can't even like
but
my
these
head.
guys aren't really a group. Like you could say like Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Kevin Smith, that would be a thing. Because as I'm sure they've had dinners together,
Right.
all three of them. And then of course, Muse would be there.
Chris
And
Rock might show up just to hang
yeah,
out, like
you get but I don't think you get these types of groups anymore,
I
where
mean if it
you get
yeah,
friends. You get something like if you and I were to make it, and then somebody would go like, "Oh, they used to make videos together," you
right.
know, but it's not the same as Coppola, Spielberg, Lucas all sitting in the same booth together. It's just not the same.
Yeah, I mean
So,
right now who are the biggest directors right now? Would you would say like Dennis whatever Philip, the guy that did Dune. You would say
like Villeneuve or something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
Denis Villeneuve.
Martin Scorsese is still one of the biggest directors. Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, and Tarantino Rodriguez still hang out. I mean, uh, I think with Kevin Smith, I think they're friends with Kevin Smith. So like Eli Roth, there's these people who still sort of do it. It's just, yeah, you're right. It's just not. It's almost not the same because I sort of blame big Hollywood stuff now, like blockbusters, because they sort of separate them, you know? Like it doesn't feel the same, when somebody does a Marvel movie toward a DC movie or whatever, like it just doesn't feel the same as when, back in the day where people just kind of did their own thing, you know, and they got famous for that. Like Coppola being famous for The Godfather, kind of thing.
Well, and that's what that unfortunately in this documentary, Robert Tappert and Sam Raimi are not there, but Bruce fills in a lot of these gaps, and he talks about like Darkman
Yeah,
being completely re-edited by Universal, and
bummer.
that it's not really Sam Raimi's Darkman, it's Universal's Darkman. And then he talks about how
He's got to pull a Zack Snyder Justice League thing and just get his hands on Darkman and release the Sam Raimi's Darkman.
I mean, I like the film as it is because I don't know any other. There's like the TV version that has some extra footage in it, but I don't. Yeah, I have no idea what it would be.
Well,
But I think now people are tired of that type of stuff, thanks to Zack Schneider with that Rebel Moon. Everybody watched Rebel Moon and hate it, love it or hate it. He's like, oh yeah, there's a 1 hour longer R-rated version of it coming up, and everybody's like, fuck off, dude. Like, come
yeah.
on, you got your Justice League cut. Do
Some
we need to
people
keep doing this?
Some people, well, the biggest person who did that was fucking George Lucas to start with,
Over and
like,
over.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as much as I love Lucas and, respect him as an artist, that's, him just changing things every 2 seconds. It's just like, dude, stop fucking with your shit, you know? Like,
And
leave
then
it
not
alone.
releasing the original stuff,
Yeah,
to where you can't even, at least Spielberg did that with E.T.
you're
When
right.
the Blu-ray came out, there were the two discs. So you could watch the original because he got so much shit for the
Well,
FBI stuff.
the Warriors, man, if they had just left the Walter Hill one on the 4K, I wouldn't have bought it. Like, if there wasn't the theatrical version, I wouldn't have bought it. I had no interest in seeing a comic book version, live comic book version of the Warriors. I hated it. I thought it was just trash. And so when originally on the Warriors Blu-ray, that was all you could get was the director's cut.
I hate
They
that.
didn't have the theatrical. So I was like, fuck this. I'm not owning this movie then. And then, then Arrow, who your buddy is now working for, said they're gonna release the theatrical cut on the 4K. I was like, I'd rather have the 4K anyway because it's gonna look beautiful. And it did. It didn't look, I thought of it for some reason, I thought it was gonna look like sharper, sharper, and it didn't look as sharp as I was expecting it to. But I'm kind of glad it didn't because it was supposed to be a dark, like grainy kind of movie, and it still felt that way enough, So
Well, and
good.
that's why I think these studios, like the big ones, like where I mean, I'm assuming this is the Army of Darkness that you would get, and it's got the four cuts of the movie on it, all in 4K. So well, let's see. Well, theatrical is in 4K, and then you get the theatrical cut Blu-ray, director's cut Blu-ray, and then international cut Blu-ray, but they're 4K scans.
Right.
So this is the way, if you're going to do something, to do it, and where you release all four versions, or this for somebody like me that doesn't have 4K, but it's you get them all. So maybe you don't like two out of the four or three out of the four, and you just like the theatrical version. It's still nice to have all of them. Like when Stallone re-edited Rocky 4, Donald and I, for film discussion, when we looked at all the Rocky movies, and that's one of the things we looked at was Rocky versus Drago, and he liked it, and I didn't. I thought it looked like a student cut it. There's obviously people that he didn't get releases from, so they blurred out their faces, and I thought some of the editing was really jagged. I didn't like it. There were some scenes I'm glad that he put back in, but on the 4K collector set, you get the original movies, and then as a bonus, you get Rocky vs. Drago,
Well,
which is how it should be.
I just watched Big, right? Rewatched Big. And in that they had the theatrical version and they had the I don't know if it's called director's or I think it was called extended version or whatever. And it was just like I think it was like 30 minutes added, which was weird to have 30
For
minutes.
Big,
Yeah.
the Tom
Um
Hanks movie.
maybe 20 minutes, but 20 minutes to 30 minutes. It was like because the original was like an hour and 45 minutes, and then the next cut was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. And it was basically this at I mean, some of the scenes were sort of okay, I get it, like I get why they added it. Some of the scenes I was just like, I don't like I can see why they cut it, you know? But most of the time, I honestly, after rewatching, I didn't finish it, but after rewatching like an hour of it, I was like, okay, I get what they did, but I'd prefer the original cut, the theatrical cut. And I think, honestly, that's why Kevin Smith calls Mallrats that thing, that the extended cut or whatever, because he doesn't call it the director's cut because he didn't, because he calls the director's cut the cut he puts out. His theatrical cut is the director's cut, right? Like if he's gonna release it and be happy with it, that first cut is his cut, you know. Whether or not the studio told him you gotta take out, whatever you have to take out, when he puts it out, that's it, that he's proud of that. Like that's the movie that he wants. And
Well, yeah, because some of the stuff is misleading, and God, I'm blanking on her name, the actress who directed Big,
oh yeah, yeah, Penny
Laverne from
Marshall.
Penny Marshall, that she tried to get for years, for like a decade, Renaissance Man as a director's cut, and the studio kept going, "Why? Like
Yeah.
nobody cares. Why?" And they wouldn't let her do it. And then Donald and I just did the Lethal Weapon films, and they all say director's cut, director's cut, director's cut. And I watched a whole documentary, like a 2 hour documentary on YouTube about the films.
Hmm.
None of them are actually director's cuts. Richard Donner doesn't like any of them. He prefers the theatrical versions. This is the studio, because Lethal Weapon was such a huge hit, they wanted to
Uh,
make more money. So they brought out what they call the director's cut. And then Lethal 2 made even more money. So then they brought out later Lethal Weapon 2, the director's cut. And then Lethal Weapon 3 made more money, and
right.
it just kind of went on.
Yeah.
So for him, even though I think parts 2 and 3 work better as these director's cuts, I
Hmm.
don't think one works as well. They're still nice to have, and so it's nice to have the originals and these director's cuts, if you want to, producers cuts, extended cuts, whatever you want to call them.
Do you remember when Daredevil had their producer's cut?
Yes, which I thought was better than the theatrical cut.
Well, it
Yeah.
was funny because that was what should have been called. That shouldn't have been called the director's cut. Should have been the producer's cut or studio's cut or whatever of the movie. But nobody's used to producer's cut until that guy put it out as producer's cut because he wasn't happy with it. I think there was also a director's cut version of it too, if I'm correct, or whatever, of Daredevil. I don't. I need to rewatch
I
that.
I only know of one extra version of it. So I don't know if it's a director's cut or producer's cut, but whatever it is, I think it's shorter, and I actually liked it better.
Yeah.
So it's, but that's the thing is, I would wonder what the ultimate Sam Raimi cut of Army of Darkness would be, and get rid of that title that Bruce, said that's Universal. That has nothing to do with them. They wanted to call it medieval. I'm sorry, Medieval Dead is
Right.
what they wanted to call it. And he said Army of Darkness would be fine, but it would be like Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness. Um, but he said that's a complete Universal thing. And they wanted like nothing to do with the other two movies.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Which to me just says that Universal are a bunch of assholes, because they're the ones who wouldn't even give them on Ash vs. Evil Dead, which by the way, I just bought all 3 seasons for $20 on eBay. So
Nice.
Blu-ray. I mean DVD,
It's
no
on
shipping.
Stars, which I have, so I
I
might.
don't, and yeah, and since I own all the movies and being a completist, I decided to just buy them all just in case we're going to review them. But
Okay, so look, I only got it from there because originally, during what is it, Black Friday, right? They had a deal where it was like 3 months for 99 cents a month. And I was like, all right, that's a pretty good deal. Like, only paying $1, for the month. I'm all right with that for 3 months, and I can just cancel. So I go to cancel it, and they get me again on like basically $2 a month, or whatever. And I was like, for another 3 more months. And I'm like, all right, like I'm guessing this is gonna keep happening, but I'm not gonna go up to $3. Like if they're not gonna give me $1 again, or whatever, I'm just gonna say no, no, thank you, I'm done. Because I don't use Stars. Stars is my least viewed,
I think
thing.
that's the show that had the Godzilla show on it, and they did the 3 months on, and I saw that, and it fit perfectly. It's like I still had like a couple weeks after the final episode of the Godzilla show, and I just canceled it after that. I'm like, oh wow, this looks perfect. The show's really only like 2.5 months, but I get 3 months, so
Yeah.
I get to see the show for free.
And you can watch a
Um,
movie or something that's on there or whatever that.
yeah, and
Uh,
but it just goes to show that with Ash, that Universal are such assholes that they couldn't even mention anything from Army of Darkness in Ash vs. Evil Dead. So it's hinted at, I think it's twice in the series, where somebody talks about the medieval times, and he goes, "Oh, I know what you mean."
okay.
That's like the reference, like, oh, so it might have happened. And Bruce has even hinted that it might have happened, but they can't say anything.
Well, in Army of Darkness, at the end of the theatrical version that we watched, he sort of hints that like people kind of look at him like, are you for real? You didn't really go back in time. You're just like Ted Raimi's character is just like, uh-huh, sure. Like I believe you totally, or whatever, but he
Right.
obviously doesn't. And then the Deadite comes at the end or whatever, and he takes care of him in S-Mart. But
But the
in
hot girl likes this story. She finds it
who
cute.
was that hot girl? I don't know who that actress was, but she was gorgeous. I liked her.
She was just an actress. She's interviewed briefly in the documentary, and she had no idea what Evil Dead was.
Yeah,
They shot that whole scene in a day, and that was it was on Christmas Eve,
I do
and she
love that
just
scene because I love him getting up on the thing and just shooting his.
Campbell just says whatever to it. He's like, that's what Universal wanted. That's what we did. He goes, I like the original ending better
What was the
because
original
he's
ending?
so the original ending is, and you could, if you look closely in the theatrical version, the wizard, when he's giving him the potion and all that stuff, his mouth doesn't match.
Right.
Because what he was saying is you need to take 6 drops. Each drop is like 100 years. And so you see them at the Roger Corman cave in LA, and it's got a couple pieces of junk around it. And they're pushing the car in, the Oldsmobile in, and he's set up and he's ready to go. And he goes, he goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a noise. He looks back and goes, 5, 6. So he's done
Oh, so he's in the
seven
future.
drops.
No.
And when he wakes up, and it goes to the whole time lapse thing, and you hear kind of people screaming and stuff like that. He has this big long beard, long hair. His clothes are all tattered, which of course you have to wonder. I mean, what does he do for food and water? But okay, fine, whatever. One of the effects guys does say that there is an ending that was never shot, but they made the dummy, which is that he dies.
Mm.
Is that it's slowly, as we're doing the over the years, you see him get older and he dies. So one of the endings is Ash dies, but
I didn't like
he
that.
wakes it would be interesting, is that's it. And Ash wakes up, he's all hobo looking, all homeless, and he goes outside, the rocks are pushed away from the outside, and he looks around, he goes, manufactured products, because he's all happy about manufactured products. And because now the whole front is all junk. And he goes, and he has a big smile, and he loses the smile, and he goes, oh no, oh no. And the camera flips, and he's in England, and Big Ben is toppled over. Everything is destroyed. And he goes, I slept. It's the kind of the ending for part 2. He's like, I slept too long. I slept too long. And then he collapses, and it goes to him laughing like a madman. And that is the director's cut's ending. And but what Bruce said was they were setting up for a part 4 where Bruce is in that world and he's fighting the Deadites with robots.
I
But
would have
they
liked
couldn't
that.
do it because they changed the ending.
Well, I mean, they could always figure out a way to get him to the to the future, you know.
Well, they do. You haven't watched all of Ash vs. Evil Dead.
No, I haven't. I haven't. I
So,
watched like the first season. I watched like a couple episodes. I didn't like. I bought it on DVD or something years ago, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll check this out because at the time I didn't have Stars and I didn't have any other. I think it was on Netflix at one point, so I could have tried watching it, but I never did. But anyway, I ended up watching a couple episodes and I was like, this is pretty cool. But then I just stopped watching episodes. Like I got busy with other something else or, started watching another TV show. I'm like right now I'm watching FBI and there's no stopping until it's finished. Like I want to catch all the way up to all the FBI episodes are done. And
right.
then I'm doing all the Chicago episodes shows like Chicago PD and Chicago Med and all that fucking shit. So
See, and I'm watching the exact opposite. I'm watching The Last Ship and Ballers.
yeah. Well, I watch Ballers. I think I've seen all of them, but I'm not sure. I might want to rewatch them because that's kind of like Entourage where I want to watch all of them again because it was
It's just gotten interesting, and I'm going to do some research on this because I'm in the third season. I think there's 5 seasons. And right now, Dwayne Johnson's character is trying to get the Raiders into Las Vegas and build a stadium. Well, the Raiders are in Las Vegas and they built a stadium.
right.
So I'm curious of how close this is to how it actually went down.
So do you think it was like based on factual stuff that happened or whatnot?
Maybe,
Cool.
maybe. So I'm curious to find out if Ballers is actually based on something real, since
Cool.
they're finally out here. But it's yeah, the ending of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Do you want me to tell you?
Sure.
So it's been out long enough, so I don't care if it's spoilers or whatever. But so the very end, he's got the car. I don't know if it's the Oldsmobile, but he has a car that's all souped up like Mad Max.
Right.
And he's in this kind of garage. And I forget how they get there exactly, because I watched it when it was originally on. But they leave the garage and they're basically in Mad Maxville.
Nice.
So they've jumped into the future, after the apocalypse, and
Okay.
now it's all Road Warrior. And so the car is all souped up and everything. So that's where I had mentioned, I think it was the last video, where I believe Bruce Campbell lied about why the show was canceled, which he said, oh, it's being pirated. And I don't believe that. Because I did read an article with him where he said it's 3 seasons. I'm getting too old to do this. And so I'm going to retire the character of Ash,
Mm-hmm.
which then there were articles saying show canceled, Ash is retired. So I think that they planned on 3 seasons. They planned on this ending with Ash and one of his companions in the future with this car, and that's where it was ending. It was never going to go further than that. They're just going to tease what could happen, but it was never going to happen because they were
Right.
only planning on because the 3 seasons does end the story. It's there is a beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, oh no, they did it on a cliffhanger. What happens now? No, they never started the new thing with the cliffhanger.
Uh-huh.
So there's nothing to finish.
Well, there
So
you go.
yeah,
Uh,
and that wouldn't have bothered me if I think Bruce Campbell was more honest with it instead of saying, oh well, people are bootlegging stars. And it's just like, okay, well, one, people bootleg all the time, and that hasn't stopped things, but it's like I'm not really believing that. Maybe people just didn't want to watch the show, if that was the truth. Maybe they just didn't care.
maybe. I mean,
So,
it's interesting because yeah, Army of Darkness and Evil Dead have their fans. Um, I've got a friend of mine who uses that name, Ashy Slashy, as her name, and stuff.
oh, I'm
And
friends with her on Facebook.
yeah. And so and she's probably watching this right now because she loves Evil Dead. So hi, Ash. Um, but
Hey.
it's funny because I'm honestly, I'm like I love the fans. Like I remember seeing on the Evil Dead DVD that I had. It was one that was like that was like the print of the Necronomicon, which by the way they have all three of them in this, and that was so freaking funny. Like I absolutely love that part where he was like, they didn't say anything about three. What?
So I sent you that video that talked about the books.
Oh
And
yes.
the director of Evil Dead Rise says this is his book is one of those books.
Okay.
So parts one, two, and three are the same book. Evil Dead remake is the second book, and he has the third book.
Okay. Cool. So neat. So all three books have been used in the things. Yeah.
Yeah,
And whatnot. And
and he does not deny or confirm that that is Ash on the record trying to stop them,
I
from
mean, it's Bruce Campbell's voice, so whether or not it's Ash or somebody else. I think on the I think on the subtitles it said Ash, you know.
it's him. It's
Yeah.
probably just the director can't say if it is or not, but it's a little Easter egg in
Um,
there that I absolutely love, and I do believe it's him.
but that is awesome because yeah, the book that he has is the one that with the that bit that bit Ash or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's got the the
The
the
mouth.
teeth on it.
Yeah, the
So
teeth on it. And then the other one is the one I guess that sucked him into the hole, or whatever. And then messed up his face where he had to go like,
yeah,
that was fun. I liked all the effects in this. I liked the fact that they had all three of the books, and I just and this whole movie, period, like there were some great lines in it. I even quoted, I don't know if you saw my Facebook, but I quoted one of my favorite lines in it, which was, "Are all men from the future loudmouth braggarts?" And he goes, "Nope, just me, baby. Just
yeah.
me."
Well, Bruce points out in the documentary a few times, and especially at the end, that he is amazed that Evil Dead is where it is today because Ash is an asshole. He's not a good guy.
Yeah.
There's stuff that's cut out of Army of Darkness where he's hiding. And there was stuff that they talked Sam Raimi out of filming where he basically brings children outside to like Evil Ash and leaves them and runs back inside. So Sam had all this stuff planned, and Bruce and some other people are like, no, we can't do that because he's already a jerk. He's already kind
Mm-mm.
of a coward, especially in the first Evil Dead. He's a huge coward. He's not Ash yet.
No, he's not Ash in the first one. He's kind of like a version of Ash, but he's not the Ash we kind of knew
No,
is
he's not the Ash with the streak that we know. That's really, he's not
because
that
really,
guy.
yeah, 'cause the first movie kind of is whatever. Then the second one's more like a remake, or whatever of the
Yeah,
first one.
it's a remake sequel. It's a
Yeah,
requel,
requel. Yeah,
requel.
requel. And then the third one is just like, because I always kind of I think the reason I didn't like Army of Darkness at first was because as much as I love comedy, I do, and I love everything being funny and silly, it just got too silly at times, and I still noticed this when I was watching it, going, it's cartoony, and some
Yeah.
people would not be into that, some people would be like, I don't like my humor too cartoony, and everything. And I think when I was younger, I didn't, you know.
Well, Bruce mentions that Sam he didn't get mad, but he definitely said something where he told the person he's like, The Evil Dead is a horror movie. Evil Dead 2 is a comedy, and Army of Darkness is an adventure movie.
Hmm.
So all of them being fans of the Three Stooges, they already started to do that with Evil Dead 2, and they
Yeah,
were going
the
to go
poking
a
and
full 100%
yeah.
in Army of Darkness, which in that video that I did with Donald with Lethal Weapon is I bring up that Mel Gibson in real life is a huge, Three Stooges fan. And if you watch those films, it is done over and over and over again, and to the point where I just hated it. Like the to me, Army of Darkness, maybe because it's only one movie where it goes 100% is fine. But man, in all the Lethal Weapon films, it's like 100% in all four movies. And it's like, okay, calm down with the Three Stooges. We get it, you're a fan. I mean, I get it.
Well, wait,
But
wasn't
with
that Shane Black who wrote that though? Like at least the first one?
he wrote the first one and the story for the second one, but it was Mel who brought in the Three Stooges aspect
Okay.
because he's the big fan. So it's I think it's I mean, things got Shane Black's version was very different from what this told me. Is that there's you know bazookas being fired into the Hollywood sign, and it's very different from what was
Mm.
on screen. But
Ah.
um, yeah, the Three Stooges stuff is a little much, but it's I think it's much better in Army of Darkness. So which is so my uncle hates horror movies. He does not like horror movies. He will watch anything his wife, but like he would, you guys would probably get along great because he is all about what his wife watches. So he'll watch Lifetime and Hallmark and all of these things that basically like I would never watch. So he
We've
doesn't
had
watch
this
horror
discussion
movies.
on my page where we were saying like well, you and I are not the same when it comes to movies. Like you like
No.
Dune too. You like the Dune series and other things, and I love that you love that. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but that doesn't necessarily mean, I wouldn't say bad things about it. I don't think they're bad movies. I just don't think they're, you know, my
Well, you
my
you
thing.
you and Paul apparently when it comes to Doom, but which that I do think you guys are crazy. But that's since Denise
Well, he
Villeneuve
liked
is awesome.
Blade Runner, 2049, and
Great film. Arrival is
you
a
know,
great film.
yeah, he's
Prisoners,
liked
which I
all
just
of
rewatched last night, is a great movie.
Disney Denise's films. Like can't say his name. I can't. Oh Lord.
It's a French Canadian name. It's not easy. But so my uncle, I go to visit them. They're in Northern California, Santa Rosa wine country. And so he's a wine guy, not a beer guy, a wine guy. And I go over and we're going to watch a movie. And he goes, I saw this movie and I loved it. He goes, we need to watch it. I'm like, well, what is it? And he hands me the DVD for Army of Darkness. And I'm like,
Nice.
you liked Army of Darkness? And he goes, this is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And I'm like, you do know this is part three. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, there's two movies before this. One that's a straight out horror movie, and then the other one that's horror with comedy. And then there's this one. So they had a website a while back, and it was taken after a while, but it was like a fan edit website. And this guy took all three movies and made them into one long movie. So he kind
Ah,
of took apart the ends and put the better endings on that made more sense to make it one long film. And I still have them. I burnt them onto to DVDs. And so I burnt my uncle one, and I said, "You should watch this because these are the first two movies. You might be able to understand it more." From what I understand, he's never watched it, so because he just won't. But
it's not his cup of tea.
yeah. So in some ways, Universal maybe was right by changing the title and not associating it with Evil Dead
Right.
because my uncle loves that movie and it has nothing to do with Evil Dead.
Yeah, if he had seen Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, he might have,
No, I don't think he would have
he
watched it.
might have like not been interested because
No.
he would have thought that he have to watch the first two. This movie
Well,
does stand
and it's a
alone.
horror movie.
Yeah, and this movie does stand alone. Like you can watch this movie without seeing the other two movies and completely understand what's going on, you know? And I think that's to me that's pretty cool. Like I mean, I like all of them, so even the new ones. We've talked about this. There's not a bad Evil Dead movie,
No,
and
no.
that is saying something to have what like five movies in a series and all of them actually being good, you know, like some even being great, that is amazing, and so I think that's just the true testament to like how a franchise should be run. And
And it is interesting that the first three films, maybe because of the time period that they were made in, but of course that was during all, the 80s and stuff, and like late 70s or the 80s. I mean, there's Reagan thrown in there, but how non-political they are,
hmm
and there's really, I don't even think any subtext where you could look at like the original Night of the Living Dead is communism, Dawn of the Dead is consumerism, Day of the Dead is like the decadent, 80s. These don't have that. But then the remake, it's drugs. And then the new one, has, the daughter who's
the
doing the
family, the broken
signs. Yeah.
family.
Yeah, yeah, she's doing the sign for like climate control and climate control. Yeah, climate control. And and that the kid, the son could be trans or a trans supporter or something like that. And I mentioned to you that a friend of mine who's conservative had a big issue with those things. And so while watching Army of Darkness, I was like, huh, there's like no political agenda in this at all. Granted, this is, I think, 92 is when it came out. And it's like it's just a fun action movie,
Yeah,
you know. There's nobody to offend. There's nobody to
except
get
ugly
hurt.
people. Because there's that line in
He
the movie where the girl says, "You found me beautiful once, lady. You got real ugly."
That's true, but maybe he's referring to her personality.
I think he's referring to the fact that she's a demon now. Like,
I think so
period.
too, but to not get in trouble, because I don't want to insult people who look
You
like
don't want,
demons.
well, you don't want to insult demons or because people can't look like demons. People can just be demons. So if they're a demon, I think they can be made fun of. They're
Well,
allowed.
I mean, who knows? Maybe demons have a bad rap. We've only heard one side of things. There's really only one book, that talks about these things. So maybe demons.
Would you like Lucifer to have his say? Would you like him to come out here and talk to us and
I
tell
think
us
that there
his
should be a debate. Sure, why not? Yeah,
be like a
you know.
presidential debate and he comes out
Yeah,
there?
you could have God here, yeah, and Lucifer there, and hey,
Actually, it would be more like Michael and Lucifer because uh
yeah, because they're angels, yeah,
because they're
because
both
you,
angels
yeah.
fighting each other and stuff. And God, God can't. God's the boss. He's not gonna come down and
Well, that's
debate
where
with his
Lucifer could
son.
be like, oh, so your boss couldn't even be here today, huh? Oh, he had
Yeah,
to send you, huh? See,
Daddy
everybody's,
couldn't be
I'm
here
here.
because he's all we're all like because all the angels were created by God, so they are God's children as well. So he's
Yeah.
that's Daddy. To
So I think that maybe he was, to play it safe, he was just referring to her personality.
watch the TV show Supernatural, and you'll get a lot of that
You like
archangel
that show.
stuff. I do. I was rewatching the
You do.
apocalypse stuff, and I'm like, we're in the apocalypse right now. We have the four horsemen over it already: war, pestilence,
Oh,
what is it,
nice.
famine, whatever, and
See, that type of stuff would make me watch it.
yeah,
I've
oh
seen
yeah,
like two or three episodes
oh yeah.
of
Well,
the show.
there's the one I just watched had war, and he was a lot of fun, creating everybody going against each other. It was civil war against demons.
See, that's why we would have had with Evil Dead. Either if they did do a season four, it would have been in the apocalypse, and then or if they did a part four to the movies, it would have been the apocalypse, and you could have
Can
had
you
all of that
imagine?
stuff.
Yeah, and they have the angels and they have Michael and Lucifer and all that stuff. So it would have been fun if they had that with Bruce Campbell chatting with all the angels and stuff and
They
calling.
got to come from somewhere, right? Somebody has
Yeah,
to be creating them or something. There has to be some mountain or that has a big castle on it or whatever, and there's got to be the ultimate bad guy up there. It can't be Evil Ash because he's too new. So
yeah,
there has to be somebody controlling all this stuff. It's so disappointing when you find out that what could have maybe been like the TV show Trimmers with how Sci-Fi Channel just screwed that whole thing up, that we were going to find out that there was a lab that was creating all these different creatures and that there was going to be a whole thing about this lab and the government and all of that. And the show got canceled because Sci-Fi Channel just screwed it up so much.
Speaking of sci-fi, I laughed so hard at the Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon was mad because Alphas was,
Oh yeah, so he calls the
canceled. So
creator.
he calls the creator at the end and he said, he finally gets the numbers. Like, are you the creator of the alphas? You were, it's like, what were you going to do for the next season? And the guy told him, I guess, over the phone. And he goes, well, now I can see why you got canceled. Bye. Hangs
Yeah.
up. Like he finally
Got
got
his
his
answer.
answer. And, he hates being, the cliffhangers. He needs to know what's going to happen and
Yeah.
stuff. And I think a lot of people are like that, and I think it's silly. It's just like that show Love got canceled, and they kind of left it
Ugh.
open-ended. I know you didn't like it, but like the ending, I still was unsatisfied. I was like, you should have give us one more season, or if you knew, like Netflix is very much known for only having 3 seasons of TV shows, except for Cobra Kai and a couple other shows like House of Cards, maybe, and stuff like that. But for most of their shows, they only do 3 seasons. Like it's Santa Clarita Diet and all these other shows that were doing de uh, Dead. What is that one with Christina Applegate? The Dead one or whatever, the Dead show that she was in.
I think I know the one you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and those only lasted like 3 seasons, and it's because Netflix only does 3 seasons. I found out Netflix only does 3 seasons because each season people get $1 million more, right? And their budget only allows for like $3 million a person or whatever. Like there's a certain budget number, and if it goes above that budget, they can't do it unless the show is a huge, huge hit. Now, Cobra Kai was started on its third season there. So technically being on its sixth season is 3 seasons or whatever, four, five, and six or something, I think. So I think it like I don't know. I think it is about 3 seasons, then they're like, oh, okay, well, we're done.
Well, from what you're saying, it sounds like it. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. So that means that anybody who creates a show for Netflix should only plan on 3 seasons. So they're
Right.
beginning, middle, and end.
And just like,
Excuse me.
Bruce Campbell saying we only plan for 3 seasons, they should have planned it to where it ended, not where it kind of gives us like a cheap ending where all of a sudden we want to know what the fuck's going to happen because uh
Well, I think they did plan it. I think that was the ending. I don't think that they said, "Oh yeah, we're going to continue it." I think that's they just wanted to give that if we made season four, this is what it would be.
well, there you go. Okay.
And so I think because it did, I believe it did conclude the story it was telling.
Ah, okay.
And then they go into the future and that would start a whole new thing, I guess. But it's I think one of the main characters dies, and so it's him and the other companion, and they're both in the car.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll
and by the way,
probably watch it at some point because
I mean it's a good show. And after watching Army of Darkness and seeing the Oldsmobile in there so much, I'm now I'm still pissed off that Evil Dead Rise just didn't have the damn car sitting in the parking garage.
no.
So what a perfect, you just leave it there. You don't even have to touch it. You just leave it parked into the space.
Yeah.
Oh, look, in the background, there's the Oldsmobile. Perfect.
I don't know why they didn't do it. There had to have been a reason, you know, or they just
Well,
forgot or,
no, the director said that the color of the color of the Oldsmobile is in the movie. Like the Oldsmobile is um represented in the movie. It's just not the car.
I don't like it. Yeah, the next movie has to have the Oldsmobile or no dice. No dice.
Like even the films where Sam Raimi doesn't have the Bruce Campbell brought this up where because he brings up the Oldsmobile, um, even the films that don't have it, the
Mm-hmm.
Oldsmobile is in the movie, but it could be in pieces.
Right.
So like if there's a film that he's making and there's a mechanic's shop, there will be a door or the hood will
Okay.
be up on a wall or something from the Oldsmobile. So something from the Oldsmobile will be in there. So maybe that's what the director of Evil Dead Rise is trying to do, is that there's some sort of symbolic Oldsmobile in there. I forgot if they said that if it was the chainsaw is the color of the
I think so.
Oldsmobile.
I think that's what you said, the chainsaw, which I'm like,
Yeah.
there already the chainsaw is its own thing, is part of the
Yeah.
Evil Dead franchise. So because it was yellow or something, like the Rhodesmobile or whatever, like it was the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's lame. Because they should be separate things anyway, because they are separate. They are a part of the Evil Dead series. But whatever, I don't care.
I'm sorry. If I made an Evil Dead film, the very first car you saw would be the Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
Like it would literally take up the entire frame as it drove past the camera. Like I'm making up for the last movie.
Yeah. So I forgot the person who's making the next one, but do it. But make sure that Oldsmobile's in this. And I, I mean, each one seems a little different, each new one. So, and they don't have like an Ash really, like each person, it's almost feels like American Horror Story where it's like, it's a whole new chapter, but it's Evil Dead, you know?
I don't want there to be Ash in it because it's like I was thinking today, like if I did one, where would I put it? And I thought, well, okay, let's maybe bring it back to the woods, but put it in a resort, like a huge resort during the winter where there's a lake, and it would be called like Evil Dead Resort, and you could have different people at the resort. It's like off season, so it's a little cheaper to be there. So you have this small group of people, and then you could have Ash as one of the people vacationing there with our new group of people.
Or, or you could put them in space.
But then I thought, no, I don't want Ash to be there. Because then what they're going to do is they're going to take some 20-year-old woman, make her a Mary Sue, make her better than Ash, turn Ash into a total idiot, and just embarrass him throughout the entire movie. So
Mm,
it's like, no, 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 no. Okay, let's not have Ash in it. We'll just bring in a whole new set of characters
I
and
mean,
just bring it.
they could have had a character named Ash,
I think
be a
that's a bad
girl,
idea.
be a girl
No, no,
and stuff. But you're right.
no.
It would have been probably a bad idea because no one could be Ash but Bruce Campbell. Like he's
Well,
Ash.
and then you wouldn't have, which is pointless, the ending of Evil Dead where it just goes groovy. Because if like the girl's name is Ash and he's Ash saying groovy, that doesn't work. Because
But
she
why was he there? Like it didn't even
because people wanted Ash to be in the movie and they heard that he was in the movie. It was supposed to, I think all of us thought it was going to be some 2 minute like mid scene, or mid credits or whatever it is scene of like Ash meeting the girl. Like he
yeah.
picks her up in a truck or something, and they drive to town, and there's our connection that
That's
that
sort
we
of what they
thought that
did,
he was.
that's kind of what they do with like Child's Play, like with the TV show showing Andy and stuff. They kind of just introduce him at the, credits or whatever, and then the second season, I believe he's got a bigger part, right? If I'm correct. I'm
Yeah, I think it's that he's at the end of season one, and then he's been in the show. I don't think he's no, he's been in the show this season. Um, they, there is a petition, and I'm so hoping this is true for season four of Chucky to be in space. There's a picture of the Earth, and then Chucky is right behind it, like his eyes. I so want Chucky in space. Can you imagine Chucky just on a space station, just
I
destroying
would
all the
only
astronauts?
be okay with that if they can have Leprechaun there with
Ah,
critters and have them all just be hanging out on space and like causing mischief and mayhem and just like at least one scene of that, would just make me happy because like those are the only ones that and Jason, all of them being up there and just like all hanging out,
well, then you gotta have
you know,
Hellraiser too.
did he go to space?
Yeah, Hell Hellraiser Hell
Oh
Most of the movie
shit.
is in space.
That's funny. So like all the characters in space like that sort of are
They're all
known for being
kind of
in
like an
space.
Expendables, but
Yeah, in
all
space.
the that were
Expendables
in
in
space.
space. did watch
Well,
that.
hey,
I
if they
totally
could do
watched
Fast,
that.
they did Fast and Furious in space.
Oh
So
God. They did
part
Sharknado
nine.
in space. I mean, why not? Like, fuck it. At this rate, why not put Chucky
Yeah.
in space? But
So I wouldn't want an Evil Dead in space. No, it all has to be grounded. You can't do anything.
grounded.
So
Uh,
you can't do anything crazy like that with
no.
some movies, and Evil Dead still has to be set in some sort of realistic thing, but but I thought with the resort, you would be in the woods again. You would have the lake, like in the remake. You could have it in the
Yeah.
snow,
The problem
which
with
we've
being
never
in the
had
high
before,
rise was that we didn't have the woods, you know, and
which is
stuff.
fine, which is perfectly okay. Take it away, and then you could bring it back. I even thought a cruise liner, Evil Dead cruise, and and somebody finds the book, and they bring it with them on the ship, and they
That
read the book on the ship, and then you have all the employees on the ship.
that was the first script I ever wrote was Cruise of the Dead. One of the first ones. The other one was Amusement, but that one got completely shattered by some dude, and I just after that I just hated the script, and so I was like, fuck, I'm gonna write another movie completely different than this one, and blah blah blah, and I'll be better, and screw that guy, and blah 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 blah. The dude, I mean, literally told me I should never write another movie again, ever again. Like from my first script. I'm like, Jesus, like that was harsh, you know?
That's because
Uh,
he's never written the script,
Actually
probably.
the dude has, but he's only written shorts, I think. I don't know if he's ever done a feature. But anyway, it didn't matter, because I've done more. I hate to say it, like not to brag and not to be like a what's that line? The braggart, but I have done more stuff than that guy has, and I've been, and I feel like a lot of people who criticize like that harshly, generally aren't happy with where they are, exactly, and to see somebody write a full length script or something like that, and whether or not they liked it or not doesn't matter, but to be that nasty and tell people not to do that, it's almost like in a way it's like trying to defeat the competition because you want to be better than them, jealousy kind of shit. But
Possibly.
me personally, I loved writing Cruise of the Dead because it was just silly having zombies on a cruise ship. But
My outline for a screenwriting class was called Zombies on a Cruise Liner because
yeah.
of, snakes on a plane. So
Right.
mine was called
Zombies on a
Zombies on a
cruise.
Cruise Liner. No, cruise liner. The
Why
cruise
why
stops
why do you have to say cruise liner?
because it flows better.
I think zombies on a cruise kind of sounds
No,
better.
that stops. It just stops. Zombies on a cruise liner.
I never in my life say cruise liner. Never. I always say cruise. I never say cruise liner, personally.
Well, if you're referring to the ship, it's a cruise liner, but you're
Right.
going on a cruise. You're not going on a cruise liner. You're going on a cruise.
Right. That
So
would be the
zombies on a
see,
cruise
that's the difference
would be
where
like zombies taking a vacation. This is
yes,
zombies on a ship.
that's
There's
what I
zombies
would
on a
do.
cruise liner.
I would do a zombies on a cruise where they're all hanging out, you know,
Okay,
um,
we can't discuss this anymore. I take my zombie stuff seriously. I can't. No. I'm not going to
like
discuss.
the zombies can put
But
sunglasses on and lay down,
no. We're no.
get a suntan.
We'll discuss Ash's love interest who
Zombies at a bar.
no. Did you know that Ash's love interest in this went on to do Schindler's List?
No, it did not. Was
Yes,
it because of this movie?
probably not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess not. They
Sheila.
they they do mention Bruce Campbell mentions like she after a while she kind of got it, but when she was first there, like she just didn't understand what was going on. Like, what is this whole thing about?
Mm,
So it was like weird to her. But then because they said that because they talked to K&B and they say how this was something like a 77-day shoot, 100-day shoot without any breaks, and they were shooting for 14 hours a day.
yikes.
Yeah. So a lot of people didn't really understand what this was, but the people who did really appreciated being there.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, to kind of get back to the movie itself. I when I said, I don't really want to, I'm glad that I watched it. I found it very entertaining. It went by very quickly,
Did.
and I do enjoy. I like both endings, um, and
I like that it was just nonstop action. Like there's something happening every page, like every minute. And that to me made it fun. Like, just watching the pit and stuff and seeing uh them kind of like that one scare guy and all of a sudden the blood just fountains up there or whatever. It's so ridiculous, like, and you think, oh my God, it's like my thought was, because I hadn't seen it in forever, I thought it was like the big fucking thing in Return to Jedi, like a big monster, that
the
eats the
Rancor.
guy. Yeah, the Rancor. And so I thought it was like a Rancor that's, that eats him, and that's why all the blood just like flowed up there. Then you see it's this little tiny woman who's fighting Ash, and you're like, really? Her? Like that was what they were scared of, because like Ash is like kicking her ass, like no problem, or whatever, you know. And so, but Ash is also from the future and a little smarter than these
Well,
primitive.
but then the bigger creature comes out.
Yeah, the bigger creature comes out.
But
Yeah.
we don't know why that much blood, because no human has that much blood. But it's just funny. It's just a funny
It's just a
scene
yeah,
with
it's a gag where they're like,
yeah, because skeletons don't have vocal cords, so you got to
"You mean this
completely.
isn't true?
No, it's
This didn't
not. I'm
really
sorry.
happen?
No. Did you
None
not
of
see the
this?"
disclaimer at the beginning that said this is not based on real
This
events?
this I think that's at the end of every movie. It says everything is fictional. Do not sue us over, shit that's, similar to what's ever going on in your life. But I've never gone back in time and had to deal with this kind of situation. I liked how the old man, the wise man, or whatever, said that he fell from that the prophecy says that there's going to be a man who falls from the sky to help them and everything. And I'm like, oh wow, like I kind of wish I could read the Necronomicon, the one that they're, the stuff they're referring to. You
Well,
know,
it's in the book in part two.
it says a man falls from the sky.
It not exactly says that, but it's Ash is looking through the book, and he comes across the guy that looks just like him. It's a drawing, and he's holding up the chainsaw. And then
I need
at
to.
the
Well, we're doing Evil Dead 2. That's
yeah,
going to be
and
our
then
next
that's
one.
the
So
ending of Evil Dead 2 is kind of the ending that didn't make it into Army of Darkness, is him with the he falls from the sky, and with the car and a tree and all that's taken right from part two. And then he sees all the knights, and they're chanting him, and he's like, no, no, no. Oh, and then it just black.
right,
And that was which is why I consider that to be one of the greatest endings of any movie ever made.
because you have no idea what the fuck just happened. Like,
It's such a brilliant ending. And
uh,
it's a downer too, because he he survives more or less, I guess, the events of Evil Dead 1 and 2, and only then to be thrown back in time.
are you?
And
Oh, go ahead.
huh?
Go ahead.
And now he's stuck there, and he doesn't want to be.
Are you
So
saying this is his Empire Strikes Back? Because he loses his hand, and then he says no. You know.
yes, in more ways than one. If we go off of my Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy of first, second, and third film.
Mhm. The real
So
first, second, and third film.
yeah, the classics. Um, you have Evil Dead. The Evil Dead would be Star Wars.
Hmm.
Evil Dead 2 would be Empire Strikes Back. and then Army of Darkness would be Return of the Jedi.
Yep. That's what I was
You
thinking.
could do you could do that with a lot of these films. The original Mad Max movies, Mad Max is Star Wars, Road Warriors, Empire Strikes Back, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is Return of the Jedi. You
Well,
do it
you
with a
can't
lot
do
of
that with
films.
Lethal Weapon.
Well, no, because there's four of them.
Actually, well, yeah, there's four. There soon to be five.
Yes, that is the rumor.
Then,
Yes, Mel
then,
Gibson's going to direct it.
yeah.
But yeah, so like you could almost do it with the original Superman
Has
movies if
he
they
got
did make part
uncanceled?
four. In a way,
Like, because, so is he one of the first people to really be uncanceled?
yeah, I don't think people still, I don't think there's a lot of people out there that like him so much. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Hacksaw Ridge was up for best film.
Yeah.
So he had his moment, and you know, we he insulted the people that run Hollywood.
Yep.
So and now he's back doing all these kind of direct to video movies. He does movies that are in theaters. He's, you know,
Yeah, we
yeah.
saw a
So,
couple, we saw a couple, like, I even bought one that was a direct-to-video movie that you were like, really? Because he was like with Kevin Dillon. You're like, really? Those
oh
two
yeah,
together? Like, that's just weird. Like Mel Gibson and
yeah.
Kevin
Then
Dillon.
yeah, then I got the one with Cole Hauser, Panama, that
Yeah.
they're both in, and
I mean,
so yeah, I think he was uncanceled. Yeah, but
and I
he's had a
love
weird
that. Like,
history, anyways.
and I love that because I always liked Mel. I mean, Lethal Weapon one was the first like Mel Gibson movie I really watched. Like I didn't when I was a kid I didn't watch Road Warrior or I had no interest in that until I got older. Then I was like, oh, let me see this Road Warrior movie that everybody keeps talking about.
My
And I was
God,
like,
man,
well, as a kid, man, I liked Ghostbusters. I liked
that's true. I am older than you. I was
yes.
absolutely obsessed with Mel Gibson because of the Road Warrior.
You wa-
I even got the white streak in my hair, and my mom bought me a car that looks similar to the one that was in the Road Warrior.
what was the one we watched? The Mel Gibson movie, not you and me, but trying to I think it was for uh Film Freaks that Paul and I did. Because Paul loves it was called um oh God, I'm gonna fuck this name up. Gil Gallipoli? Gallipoli?
Oh, it's about the Aztecs.
No, 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 no. It was an Australian war movie.
Oh, Gallipoli.
Gallipoli. Gallipoli.
Yeah,
And Gallipoli and that
that's
was like
Apocalypto is the one about the Aztecs.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
Gallipoli was this like I don't know, Australian one that Mel Gibson was the because back then he was I mean he's been Australian since he was born, or whatever. But everybody sort of
Actually, he is not Australian born.
is he not? He was
No,
living there, I guess, and making movies there.
he was born in New York. His
Oh,
dad worked for the railroad, and they got transferred to Australia, I believe, when he was like 14 or 16,
oh,
and he
okay.
adopted the accent.
Well, there you go.
So
You
yeah, so
corrected
he's
me, and I'm okay with
yeah.
that.
Remember,
Um,
I'm not kidding when I said I was obsessed with Mel Gibson. I was
yeah.
absolutely obsessed about him.
And then Gallipoli was a great movie. I never even heard of it before Paul was like, "We're watching this movie," and I'm like, "Huh? Okay." And
Yeah, it's got
I
a good
thought I was
director
gonna
on it.
hate it because it was a war movie, me and war movies. But I actually really, really liked it. I thought it was very entertaining. But he also had me watch another war movie that was for Criterion Watch, that I Break Breaker Morant, that also I believe was Australian. So I
Yes,
tend to like Australian war movies. Like
I
I'm
guess
like
so. So that's a
I
good one
know.
too.
Like yeah, it's a great movie. I own it on Blu-ray now.
That's Brian Brown is in that one.
Yeah, it was good. But anyway, I absolutely love Mel Gibson. I love and Bruce Campbell, by the way. My parents love Bruce Campbell, but only because they grew up on they watched like Bird Notice. And Bird Notice was, I mean, so I'll be like I'll say, "Oh, I watched Army of Darkness" to them at some point, and they'll be like, and Bruce Campbell is then my mom will be like, "I love that. I love that man. He's so good." Blah blah blah. And she'll act like I know him or something, sometimes because I saw him once or a couple times at a couple horror conventions, but I never met him. I've only met Sam Raimi.
Oh,
And I met
I
Ted, and I've met Ted Raimi.
when Army of Darkness, I think it was about a 6 months before it came out or whatever, in Hollywood, they had a big signing. Everybody was there, like everybody. And they were, you could buy posters, like the actual Army of Darkness poster.
And they was
And
signed for free back then.
yeah, yeah. My
Because
friends and I
that's
went to it and it was like seeing the Versus thing. Like we got all giddy. It's like, fuck, this is another Evil Dead movie, and even though the Evil Dead was made in our lifetime, it didn't mean anything. We didn't even know about it. And then Evil Dead 2, you kind of had to go hunt it down. This was like, in a way, like our movie. This was just like, oh my God, it's an Evil Dead movie that's being made in our lifetime. We're meeting everybody at this long ass table, and Sam was there, and Bruce was there, and the cast was there, and
were the K
like
and B guys there?
I think so. It was a really long table. Like everyone was there. I don't
I
think like
got
the actresses were there, but it was mostly just the guys.
I
But
got
it was
to
it was a great experience.
what's the guy with the I want to say it's the K name. He did Wishmaster. Kurtzman. Robert Kurtzman. Is that his
Oh
name?
yeah.
So Robert Kurtzman, I met him at a horror convention, and oh my God, is he one of the nicest people you will meet at a horror convention. He is a fan of like the of of horror, like he's just a giddy fan of horror. And so just chatting with him, I so want to interview him someday because I guarantee you the stories he could tell and just the knowledge he has about the film industry. And I love Wishmaster. First Wishmaster. The other ones are okay, but the first Wishmaster is fucking gold, and it was
I
one
like
of
the
the
first
first
one.
times I ever saw like Tony Todd and Robert Englund and Kane Hodder and all of them together in a film, like somebody put them all together, as and playing different parts. They weren't Freddy or Jason or whatever, but they were there, as characters. It was like the next you know, Victor Vincent Price and Bela Lugosi and all those guys coming together, the Universal guys all being together in movies,
Right.
and stuff like they used to do. Nowadays, you don't really, other than in like an Adam Green movie or something, in the Hatchet movies, you might have that, but like only because he wants Victor Crowley fighting, you know, Candyman or something. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want, like I don't know, or Leatherface fighting him. So I don't know. It's pretty cool, like seeing that. So I really like Robert Kurtzman, and I should I don't I got a picture with him. I don't think I got his autograph or anything, but I got a picture with him, which is pretty neat. That he's a big influence on me and a lot of these guys like studied under like Tom Savini and things like that, and you know
Oh yeah, yeah. They did, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Day of the
they
Dead and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I watched years ago. I need a rewatch at some point just to because I watched it once, and I remember I don't like zombies, so when I watched it, I probably didn't like zombie movies. So
Mm.
well, I need to rewatch that and probably the original Dawn of the Dead, even though I did watch the remake of Dawn of the Dead and loved it, you know. Um, so I might be getting more into zombie movies a little bit. I do like zombie comedies a little bit more than straight zombie movies,
Not
but
me.
like,
No.
I know, we're different. It's okay, you know. I'd prefer us to be different because if we were similar, we'd be giving thumbs up and thumbs down, or we'd be giving the same thing all the time, and that'd be kind of boring, you know. I Whoa. Okay, there we go. Um,
Yeah.
all right.
I mean,
Well, I guess is that about it? Like, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
I mean, unless there's like any particular scenes that you really liked. I mean, I like them making the Oldsmobile kind of like a character,
Yeah.
in it with them doing the death machine. I thought was pretty cool. Um, The stuff at the windmill is good. I like the stuff at the graveyard. Him screwing up the names is very funny. It's
Oh
very
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ash.
No, yeah, him going, plot to Barada. I said
I
it
I kind of got it all right, not every single
basically.
syllable. And
Yeah.
then Ted Raimi asked him the same thing. Did you get it right this time? You know, well, maybe not exactly right.
Mhm. Oh
Not learning
no.
his lesson at all.
Dope.
Oh, you know who played the witch, the
Mm.
one that he has the fight with, who says, we'll swallow your soul. That was I'm thinking Patricia. Oh fuck, I'm thinking on her name. She played Barbara in the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Uh,
Tillman.
Patricia Tillman. Is that her
Yeah,
name? Okay. I was not a
but
uh
she's a big like actress stunt woman, and so she
Tallman.
Tallman.
Yeah.
So she played the witch in that, and she played a few other things in the movie too. But I guess for most people, well, if you like zombie movies, you would know her as Barbara from the remake of Night of the Living Dead. Um, she also played a wannabe Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where the the principal grabs her by the shoulder, thinking that it's Ferris and it's not.
Oh, she
Which
was in that? Okay. So she was an extra in Ferris Bueller's?
No, she's the one where um the principal is at like it's like a gaming thing. There's a whole bunch of like an arcade,
Right?
and it's the short black hair with the same jacket that Ferris has on, and he says, "I have your ass now," and grabs her and turns her around, and it ends up not being Ferris, and she's drinking a shake, and she spits the shake at his face.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's her. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So she's
cool.
been on Star Trek and a ton of stuff. But
Babylon 5, it's in or something.
yeah, so it was cool hearing her talk about stuff too, about how she played the witch. So I didn't know that Bill Moseley was in the movie, and I didn't know that she was in the movie until today. I
I
had no
only
idea.
knew it was because I was looking up the credits while I was watching the movie and I saw Bill Moseley's credit and I was like,
That's
yay.
where I'm like, fucking what? And I went back and Bill Moseley, I'm like, maybe it's just a guy with the same name. And then in the documentary, he talks. So it's like, oh, okay, it
Nice.
is him.
And he did such a great job just playing the leader, of the Deadites and he was he was he had fun with Bruce, it seemed, and everything. And so they gave him a good amount of stuff to do and I like that. Like, it felt very like medieval times. Like this was the closest we're ever gonna get to Sam Raimi doing King Arthur,
Yeah,
like,
probably. Yeah.
because I don't think he'll unless somebody says, "Hey, I want Sam Raimi to direct this next King Arthur movie," which okay, we've had enough King Arthur movies, and stuff, but
That's why I named the guy
yeah,
Arthur, probably, is this.
yeah,
Yeah, this is my King Arthur movie. So,
yeah.
well, and that the scene that your wallpaper back there is, that's when you see the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see The Manster from the 50s?
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah, but I've never seen
Great film. It's public domain, I believe, so you could get it free on YouTube. But that's what he has on it, is that he goes to Japan, and they conduct experiments on him, and he wakes up one morning with a giant eye on
it.
his
Nice.
shoulder. And they took that and put that in
Of
Army of
course, because
Darkness. So,
I can tell Sam Raimi's a big fan of like B movie schlock stuff, or whatever too. So I get it. Yeah, this stuff was silly with them fighting each other and then poking each other and doing the Three Stooges stuff and then eventually separating and and whatnot.
but at least
Uh,
they gave a reason for it. The
right.
the
No,
little
all of
Ash
it made
goes
sense.
down him, and then he grows inside of him. So
Which was a little weird. Like, how would he grow inside of him? But I guess he did, and then
doesn't
he
matter.
just it didn't matter because
It's a fantasy land.
all of it's fantasy, all of it's weird and wacky, and I it's funny because if you ever seen, I don't know if you ever seen Yoga Hosers yet, but there's the
No.
in Yoga Hosers, Kevin Smith has these little teeny tiny what they're called, Bratzies. They're like They're mini tiny what is it?
Oh,
Not
I've seen
Nazi whatever little characters, and that sort of, when I was watching Army of Darkness, I kind of thought about that, but I was like, this is done much, much better and much funnier and sillier. And then it reminded me also of the little, like, I guess everybody always loves these little character things of the people of like the Stay Puft Marshmallows in Afterlife, which a lot of people hated, and I thought they were just silly. And I
I
mean,
didn't like them.
you didn't like them, but I did. I didn't
No,
like them. I didn't like
I
it.
found them to be absolutely pointless and just to sell toys.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. Like I grew up in the time period where toys were sold to me like very easily, Like I got excited if I'm actually thinking about going up to AMC theaters for Frozen Empire just to get a fucking Slimer bucket, a popcorn bucket, I'm like, I'll spend some extra money and just get a Slimer popcorn bucket, I'm weird like that,
But that's fine. That's like theater promotion. Like I should have bought the Mission Impossible ones when they came out, and I didn't, and now I feel like an idiot.
Wasn't
But
there a Dune 2 one too? Like
I
a,
know
a
there
bucket?
might be. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not into Dune like I am Mission Impossible, so I probably wouldn't
Yep.
buy it.
That's
But
true.
I just like the movies and the director. But it's uh uh like back in the day for Ghostbusters, you would go into Toys R Us and you'd be like, oh shit, they made a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man toy, thing would be like this big, and you'd be like, oh fuck, I want that.
Actually, it was just smaller. It was
Nobody,
like this big, and it was amazing. And I had one.
nobody is saying that with the mini Stay Puft
Yeah,
Marshmallow Man.
I
Nobody's
didn't
saying that.
see any of toys for the mini marshmallows,
No.
but it didn't matter.
They were there for nostalgia, and they were oh look, we have something, and that was it. I
I
mean,
was
they really
surprised
didn't
they
serve a
didn't.
purpose.
I'm surprised nobody's made Stay Puft actually into a real marshmallow kind of thing, like a real brand called Stay Puft, and I would buy that, you know. Um, Probably just because, it's Ghostbusters. I mean,
Maybe they did cereal.
what?
Maybe
Maybe
they did cereal
I
and they
don't
put
know.
marshmallows in the cereal.
I don't know. All I know is I do own a 'cause like I said, I'm a huge um I'll own these things. Like, I mean, I've got the Legends Star Wars books. I don't have all of them. One day I plan to collect all of them, but I'm not, I don't need to collect all of them right now. And then I've got the Ghostbusters Tobin Spirit Guide, you know, and shit like that because I'm a huge, like collector of these things,
But that stuff that's the books are canon in, or at least in some sort of way.
They were
And
originally canon, and
the
then they got kicked out
yeah, thank you, fucking
for
Kathleen
Disney.
Kennedy.
Yeah, to
Go fuck yourself.
Oh, Kathleen
And
Kennedy said there was none before. There was never anything before, Disney took over. So
when they in the interview, the interviewer asked her, um, yeah, are there, I forgot exactly how he put it, but he asked her the question of like the books and all that, and she said, yeah, there are, nothing has been made. And that's, a lot of people were pissed off at the way that she phrased it, which made it sound like there's no books, there's no video games, there's no comics, there's nothing.
yep.
And that should have been, well, the bad sign should have been that she was allowed to be Steven Spielberg's uh, uh coffee fetcher back in the day. So, but this is a whole other
Did
video
you
that we
ever
could
see?
get
Did you
into.
did real quick? Did you ever see that YouTube video where it was like Steven Spielberg talking about Kathleen Kennedy, and Kathleen Kennedy apparently uh apparently they were at a meeting or something, and Kathleen just started talking, and she was his assistant. She wasn't supposed to be telling people what, like throwing out
Yeah,
ideas and stuff, and he was like,
Spielberg said that's the he said it in a way that might have been joking or might not have been joking, that yeah, that even though it wasn't her place, she would still interject.
"Yep."
And
And
which to me is really annoying.
well, no, because like it wasn't. I don't think it was joking, or maybe may tried to seem like it was just so that he saved face, but he I remember seeing, I think you might even showed me it, but there was a video where, they were like, I think it was George Lucas or or no, or Steven Spielberg was saying like the, on stage talking about the person who's responsible, there's,
Oh yeah, that's when they were
there's,
giving out the awards,
yeah,
and Lucas was there, and and Frank Marshall was there, Kathleen Kennedy's husband, and he went through like, oh, there's George Lucas, and there's these people and these people, and then the very last person is, and all these people that he mentioned before deserved to be thanked. And so the last person goes in like, yeah, the most important person who brought Star Wars, John Williams.
which
And
is true. His
yeah,
music
and
was
you
like one of
can,
the most important things in
oh
the
yeah,
movie.
and that's when the orchestra came on and all that. And you could see Frank Marshall leaning over to Kathleen Kennedy saying, let's leave.
And
And
then
he walked out. She stayed for a little while longer.
and helped George Lucas out because apparently George was in a wheelchair or something, or whatever needed to be, or no, he was just needed to be help taken because he's older, now and everything, and so he was just helped. She helped him lead him outside or whatever off the stage,
Oh,
off the
that I don't
stage.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, that,
it was it's pretty
I,
weird to
I,
see,
I,
but
I think maybe he might have just hurt himself, but I don't think it has anything to do with age because him and Spielberg are like the same age, or at least roughly.
I don't
But
know. It was
yeah, but it's yeah, it was very. She found that to be very insulting.
yeah,
So it's but that's like a whole other thing. So
yeah,
it's she should, so it's she to me is much like the rating system, like the people at the like the people who give, I'm blanking on the name I want to give, the
the
MPAA
MPAA.
or MPA, well now MPA,
What, they don't
um
have the Association of America anymore? Like it's just of
it's now
America?
just it's now just Motion Picture Association.
Oh God, that's
So I
terrible.
guess it's for everything. And she reminds me of them because even Bruce Campbell talks about how uh Army of Darkness probably should have been PG because there's no blood in it. And
Right.
but he's thinking that it was their revenge for the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 because they went out unrated.
Mm.
So that was their way of taking revenge on them, was calling the film R or saying that you need to, like they wouldn't tell them what scenes to cut. To me, that's Kathleen Kennedy.
So this movie is a bomb in the box office, right?
Yes, we have not gone over that. I have my thing right here. So the movie came out in 1992. Its budget is 11 million. Um, and its box office was 21.5 million. That is a bomb,
Yep.
an
Well, it
absolute
says what
bomb.
on IMDb it says the budget is 13 million and the gross was 11 million. That's what it says on mine.
Not on
So,
mine.
uh, on
I'm going
IMDb.
off. I've been going off of Wikipedia for all of our videos, so I'm going to stick with that. Plus, that sounds right. That sounds more right. The film did make money, made its money. It made its money back. It just didn't make any extra money.
Yeah. Um So yeah, well, hmm. So I don't know. I don't. It just, yeah, it didn't make it. It didn't make its money, or so it didn't make like double the budget or whatever. Like the way that like basically we look at movies now.
Well,
You
a lot
know.
of people didn't know what it was. And the poster's fine, and the Bruce has even said like the marketing was fine and everything, but just nobody really knew what it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once again, it nobody knew. Like your uncle didn't know it was Evil Dead 3. Like he just thought it was some wacky fucking weird
I think
ass
he just,
movie.
yeah, probably rented it from the cover, which is the same cover that Vacation has, and European Vacation. Well, it's got the six pack, Chevy Chase on there,
Right.
because he's supposed to look like Conan.
Hmm. Uh,
So,
there you
you
go.
know, yeah.
Well, So everybody, we're gonna be doing Evil Dead 2 next, since we're going down the other opposite way of where normally we would go. We would normally go the first way of like doing Evil
I
Dead
kind of like doing it this way because then you could kind of look at the most recent and
and kind of judge sort of how it, where it's gone, in a way, in a different way. So I like it. I like doing this.
where it
This
came
is
from.
fun. Where it
Yeah.
came from, or where it's gone to where it's came from. So,
Yeah, there you go.
I like that. So yeah, we'll be doing Evil Dead 2, then Evil Dead 1, and then I guess we're moving on from that. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. We got a couple more weeks to figure that out. But this has been fun. It's been a different way to do uh horror film lovers reviews, and we're still doing mainstream Monday, so keep watching those. We got some really fun ones on there. And yeah, and then we just relaunched the our pickup videos. So go watch those on Indie Film Cafe and on Blu-ray Hunter to get those. So it's been a start to this month. So I'm super excited, or not month, year, like this is just the third month in the year. And God, I don't know, man. I'm so into the future already. Like I'm thinking about shit that's gonna happen later that I keep getting my months and keep thinking it's later in the year already, And I'm like, oh God, it's only we've only been through 2 months, like that's it so far of 2024. Woo! But I'm excited. I think this is going to be a good year.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, everybody, hope you guys check it out and let us know what you guys think. Until then, everybody,
Oh,
bye.
did we want to give a
Oh,
rating?
did we do ratings for this?
We have been, I think, haven't we?
Yeah. I guess. All right. I keep forgetting. It's been a while since we did the last one, till we did Evil Dead 2013. All right. What do you say for yours?
Uh, four, 4 out of 5, leaning more towards 4.5.
I'll probably go with
But
4.5. I really, I almost feel like it almost could be a 5 because it is so fucking funny and it so catches my attention. I mean, even the little things that you mentioned that I picked up on, like, where did the horse go? Like, how did he get his horse again? We didn't see a scene where he got his horse. I was almost like, we don't need to see a scene where he gets his horse. We don't need it. It didn't bother, doesn't bother
didn't
me.
bother
Like,
me. No.
yeah. Or where did he get his gun? That a little bit bothered me because like I'm like, did somebody just hand him his gun? Or did he like see it on the ground? Like where the fuck did he get that?
Yeah,
That
it's
kind of bothered me a little bit.
unless the wizard picked it up and
And just
then
threw it to him or something. That would have been,
yeah, we just never saw it. But
yeah,
that would be the only logical thing, I guess, is he picks up the chainsaw, watches Ash leave, and then it cuts, but he bends down and picks up the shotgun also
yeah.
and takes, yeah. So I don't know.
I just like the fact that he, basically the chainsaw gets thrown down and he jumps up and takes it like his hand like that. That was cool.
Yeah,
Like
just
that
like
was
the
a pretty
thump
cool.
right
Yeah.
inside
Yep.
it.
So everybody, if you haven't seen Army of Darkness, we probably spoiled a lot of shit. So oh well.
It
That was
came out
really
in
fun.
'92, if you haven't seen it already.
Apparently 93 is when it got actually released because 92 I read into it that Bruce Campbell and all of them were really mad because Universal held on to it for because they wouldn't put 3 million more dollars into the movie's budget, for post-production stuff, that
That is not what he says in the documentary. He says the reason why it was held on for a year was because Dino De Laurentiis was suing Universal over Hannibal,
oh, over
and
what?
they Hannibal, Hannibal
Yeah,
Lecter.
okay.
That it was two
Yes,
films
you're
got
right.
Yeah,
You're
two films got held up. That was Cuffs with Christian Slater and Army of Darkness were held for a year while they were going through legal disputes.
Bruce Campbell was displeased with the studio delaying the film's release from summer 1992 to February 1993 and its re-editing of it. There were issues because the studio was unwilling to pay an additional $3 million to finish the movie, and they were using the film as leverage in a conflict with producer De Laurentiis over the rights to the character of Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. Campbell stated that he wasted a year of his life waiting for the film to get re-released to cinemas. So.
So we're actually both right.
Yeah, we're both right. The $3 million
Yeah.
was because of the Universal, but for uh post-production, probably reshoots that they needed to fix up to make Universal happy, you know, and shit like that. But they finally got it made and got it out, and I'm happy. Evil Dead 1, that took them so long that I don't even think even right now they have I think they said that they just broke even a few years ago, you know, from the sales of that movie, you know. So when you think independent films make lots and lots of money or something, no, independent films make shit. Like if unless you're selling, even if you're selling the movie yourself, you're not gonna make bank on your independent film. If a studio puts out the movie like Miramax or something, hopefully pay you the budget plus more, or whatever. So to put it out. That's what Miramax did with Clerks. So anywho, we'll talk more about that when we get to the Evil Dead, but join us in 2 weeks for Evil Dead 2. Until Dead by Dawn.
Dead
So
by Dawn.
all right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.